Do you guys ever wonder what affects the cost of a pond? Why one pond project is 4 times more than another pond that appears to be the same size and scope? It's common for clients to wonder about these things, and the answers aren't always obvious. In this video, I'm going to shed some light on many of the things that you may want to consider in your pond design, things that are going to definitely have an impact on the overall cost of your pond project. By the end, you're going to have a greater understanding of the concepts that will help you develop a more realistic expectation for what you're getting into in pond design, and also give you some ideas on things that you can do to potentially shave off some of the cost of your water feature project. Asking how much does a pond cost? It's no different than asking how much does a car cost or how much does a house cost. There's no answer. So let's do what we can, dive right into some real talk about things that will impact the cost of your pond project. Number 1, size and depth is going to have a great impact on your cost. Size, obviously, twice as big, twice as much. With depth, it's a little bit different. 2 foot deep, 2 feet deep is a good starting point for a koi pond. Our clients often choose to go deeper. As I'm sure you already know, in the ecosystem style of ponds, we cover all the liner faces with rocks and gravel. Not only does going deeper increase the amount of stone it takes to cover the liner, but it also increases the size of the stones that we use and the amount of labor that it takes to build. As these vertical walls inside the pond grow taller, it becomes more technical to build for stability. The result is that a pond that is twice as deep can potentially cost more than twice as much. Not always the case, but in certain instances it is. That being said, if you're worried about cost on your project, staying with the 2 foot minimum depth for a pond is a good idea. If you just want what you want and deeper is better and cooler, then do you. It's probably worth mentioning as well that the only thing that dictates maximum depth on an ecosystem pond is its size. You can't go super deep on a little bitty pond, it just doesn't work. Small rocks, tall walls equals caved in. A good rule of thumb is 20% of the width of the pond will give you the maximum depth. Like 10 feet wide gives you 2 feet for maximum depth. 15 feet wide, 3 foot maximum depth. Not a die-hard rule, anything can be done, but it gives you a simple design guideline to go from. The purpose of your pond can also impact the cost of your water feature. A koi pond where you plan to grow jumbo koi or you're planning to have a huge fish load, it's going to need more filtration than your average project. If you plan to swim in your pond, that comes with additional needs, such as an external pump system and a much more aggressive filter system. The location can also be a factor. Typically, I design a pond to go where it needs to go, not where it's easiest to put it. If your property's sloping away from your viewing area, most people want to make the waterfall go with the direction of the slope, also away from your viewing area. The truth is, you should always make the waterfall go with the flow coming towards the viewing area if it is at all possible. This means you may have to actually create a berm by bringing in soil and boulders and do retention in order to create the necessary elevation in the background to build the feature going in the right direction. This is obviously going to have a significant increase in the cost of your project. Another potential cost associated with your location is if there's a drainage issue that needs to be addressed. You never want runoff water to feed into your pond. In some instances, we've had to install drainage systems or build a pond up in order to create a situation that discourages the water or the runoff from going into the pond. Sometimes it even creates a need to put an under pond drainage system because water wants to seep behind the liner and then you get that dreaded liner bubble. So all of these things can happen. It should all be planned out in the planning stages and not figured out as you go. All of it's going to add additional materials, additional labor, and obviously additional cost. Other potential cost increases can come from advanced filters like wetland filters and intake bays. We've got videos on what this stuff is. That's not what this video is about, but if you're looking into advanced filtration, watch those videos. It's stuff you'll want to know. But in reality, versus a standard precast filter like those plastic box biofalls things, those wetlands can make a significant impact on your cost. One, they do different levels of the same thing, but if we're working on a tight budget, that's going to rule out a wetland filter and an intake bay from your design altogether in favor of the more economical choice. Intricate pond shapes can increase the cost of your pond, creating the need for lots of wasted liner as well as lots of seaming liners together. It's going to increase your cost. Crazy curves in the pond shape, long inlets, multi-level waterfalls, all of these things are going to increase materials and they're going to increase expertise and they're going to increase labor. And let's get back to waterfalls. The waterfall width, the waterfall length, and the waterfall height can make a large impact on the cost of your project. Wider falls create a ton of additional labor. It requires a lot more water flow, and realistically the water flow has to be at balance with the size of your pond, and it increases the stone needs immensely. So all of these things drive up the cost. The length of streams and waterfalls is also a balancing act in the design process. This is not the video to discuss water in motion, but at a point, the length of the streams and the falls requires the actual pond to be enlarged. Finally, waterfall height. Although 1 to 2 feet high is often enough elevation to create a nice waterfall feature by your pond, people often want more dramatic effects. The fact is, there's no rules. If you don't already have a hillside that you're working with, building a hill can get seriously costly. Here are some things to consider in relation to height. Soil under the water feature has to be properly compacted so that it doesn't settle after construction. Secondly, you don't want a volcano to look at. What this means is that the mound of soil that you need to import in order to keep it looking natural gets exponentially larger as the waterfall gets taller. You also need more boulder outcropping when you do that. Whoever saw a waterfall with rocks only on the edges of the water? They need to spill out throughout the surrounding landscape in order to look organic and natural. The higher you go, the more of this rock outcropping you're going to need. Should also talk about materials and equipment. These are going to ding your wallet. The bigger your feature, the bigger your boulders need to be. No one falls in love with a great big pond that looks like a pearl necklace when it gets all filled up, or little rocks around the edges. It's all about scale. The bigger the scale, the bigger the equipment, the bigger the boulders that it takes to build a project. Guys, bells and whistles add up. It's just like when you're buying a new car. Bigger ponds have custom filter systems, circulation jets, fish caves, interaction stones, underwater lighting packages, driftwood creations, bridges, floating steps, patios next to them, patios inside of them, walkways adjacent and steps. All of this stuff, pergolas, gazebos, aquatic plants, koi from Japan, you can go bananas without even trying. We want to talk about site conditions. That can have a dramatic effect on cost. Soil types can have a dramatic effect on cost. Some places there's rocks instead of soil. Do we have to build the pond up on top of stone? Do we have to jackhammer out a hole? Sometimes we have to haul stone away that we've jackhammered out and haul soil back in to build a pond. Think about the existing landscaping. Is it a wide open new construction space, or there's a beautiful lawn with mature plants? Access is huge. Do we have room to get equipment into the site? Are there fences that have to be taken apart? On smaller jobs, we can bring in these Spartan mats that we put together, PVC plywood sheets basically, to help protect your lawn. But at the end of the day, you're bringing in tons of materials back and forth, and there's going to be a bit of damage. Think about the trucks. Can we even get a semi of boulders to your site? Do they have to come in on a little half-size truck, which doubles the amount of deliveries that we have? Can we even get up your driveway? We've had to unload trucks at the street and then bring the stone up and the soil up in a skid steer, 1 pallet and 1 scoop at a time. And we've done this on jobs where it was a 5-minute ride up the hill. Imagine bringing in hundreds of tons of materials to a project in this way. It's gonna cost you. Gosh, what other hidden costs are there to consider? You know, think about permits or regulations that you might have in your area. It's different everywhere we go. Are you required to have a fence around the outside of your pond? Currently in my area, koi ponds aren't highly regulated, but that is not the case everywhere. Also, I would suggest you consider what repairs are going to need to be done on your property when the job's finished. You're going to need to do lawn repairs. You're going to need to do irrigation repairs and adjustments because you've created new space. The amount and types of these different things are totally dependent on the size and scope of the project that you design. And then there's out-of-town expenses. Travel, food, lodging. This typically increases the cost of our projects by 25%. And sometimes materials are twice as much, like in California, as they are somewhere like East Tennessee where the rocks come from. All of these things are not meant to deter you from being interested in a pond. They're meant to prepare you. All surprises should be good surprises. That's my motto. Water features are amazing, but you get what you pay for. Cutting corners is going to cost you more in the long run. That's why we work so hard here to educate and inspire you. As you've heard, size, scale, depth, design complexity, advanced filtration, bells and whistles, site conditions, access, and your geographical location are just some of the things that are going to need to be considered to determine the cost of your pond project. If you want to see real pricing on our projects, go in and check out our project profile pages on our website. They include details like the story, the scope of the project, all of the video content that we produced during the construction of said job, and what our current price is to replicate that exact project in that exact situation. If you ever want to chat with us, fill out the contact form on our website. We can have a down-to-earth conversation about what a project might look like for you and what taking the next step could look like. I'm John G. Adams with Modern Design Aquascaping. Our team builds world-class ponds, fountains, and waterfalls all over planet Earth. It is my absolute pleasure to spend this time educating you and inspiring you about ponds and water features. I appreciate you taking the time to be here with the Adams family. John G. out.